and welcome. Today I will be talking about the Shamans of South Africa. The term for a shaman in South Africa is a Sangoma. When I was younger, one of my caretakers was a Sangoma, and I had a very incredible experience with her that really made me curious about Sangomas and how they operate. I was about 5 or 6 years old and I was sleeping one night, and then I woke up and I saw her standing in my room. She said to me, "Takbeta wena." She always used to say this to me when I was naughty or when I was doing something that I shouldn't be doing. From my understanding, this means you're being naughty, stop it. Anyway, as she said to me, "Takbeta wena," she started disappearing into thin air. As a child, I was very confused as to what was happening, so I thought I was probably just dreaming and I went back to sleep. The next day, I actually went and told her about this experience. She then said to me that she actually has a spiritual self that exists in the astral realm or the spiritual realm that watches over the people in her life while they sleep. The reason she sends the spiritual self to watch over others while they sleep is so that evil entities don't come and attack their bodies while they're sleeping. I thought this was very interesting and I felt very connected to what she told me because I'd actually seen her in my room the night before. So let me tell you more about the Sangomas of South Africa. Sangomas are usually from Zulu or Xhosa descent. They are known as the witches and the wizards in South Africa. They have a very big impact in their communities as they act as the healers within their communities. Sangomas are becoming much more accepted within South Africa, and they're also becoming much more widespread and less taboo. They're starting to be accepted by many different South Africans of all different backgrounds. So let me tell you more about the Zulus and the Sangoma tradition. In the Zulu tradition, they believe that God has nothing to do with human affairs and that the cause of illness and suffering is not from God. They believe that God delegated many of the important functions to the ancestors. The ancestors are known as amatlozi. The ancestors are the ones who are actually involved in the world of the living, and they are the ones who cause the good and the bad in the world around us. According to the Zulu tradition, the ancestors are the ones who punish us for our wrongdoings. They do not punish us out of wickedness. They punish us if we do not abide by ethical standards of living. According to the Zulu tradition, if you do not live a moral life, you will be punished by the ancestors throughout your life. In the Zulu tradition, there are certain types of morals you have to live your life by, and there are certain traditions that you need to follow. And if you do not follow this, you will get cursed by the ancestors through misfortune, illness, loss. In the Zulu tradition, they believe that when a person falls ill, it is a sign of an ancestor punishing them. It is a sign of spiritual pollution or imbalance that needs to be addressed and dealt with. Sangomas use divination to basically find the cause of any kind of illness a person might be experiencing, whether it be mental or physical. In the Zulu culture, they believe that all mental and physical ailments are a result of being in a state of spiritual imbalance. They do not believe that illness is solely manifested through the physical and that it is linked to a spiritual cause. Once a Sangoma has used divination to figure out what the spiritual cause is of a person's illness, they will then ask the ancestors for ways to heal this person. The ancestors will then tell the Sangoma what needs to be done for a spiritual cleanse to in essence take place and for the illness to be removed from the person. Once the ancestors have removed the illness or the misfortune from the person's life, the person must then promise to not do the thing again that caused them the misfortune in the first place. Now, in the Zulu culture, the witches and the witch doctors are not always good. There can be evil ones that can perform rituals and spells that can cause misfortune in people's lives. The Zulus are very aware of witchcraft and its impact on their lives. And for this reason, they often go to the good Sangomas to counteract any negative witchcraft that might have been done in their life. They also go to the Sangomas to protect them from any possible negative witchcraft that can be done in their life. One of the most popular rituals that a Sangoma will perform for a client is protection against witchcraft. So people often go to Sangomas to receive protection from evil spirits and witchcraft. So in the Zulu culture, only certain people will have a calling to be a Sangoma. You can't just choose to be a Sangoma, you have to actually have a calling to be one. In the Zulu tradition, the calling is called ukutwasa. Ukutwasa basically symbolizes an ancestral responsibility, which indicates that the particular person will have a responsibility to heal the living. The calling to be a Sangoma is usually associated with some kind of illness that a person will experience at a young age. This illness can be highly impairing. This illness can actually cause the person not to live their life normally whatsoever. The Zulu believes when a person has a calling, when they experience some kind of mental or physical illness that isolates them from society and that stops them from actually being able to function normally, it means that they're a Sangoma. However, very often people go to Western medicine to seek treatment for these particular illnesses that they might be experiencing. The individuals who are called to be Sangomas are known as Twasa. They're basically apprentices who are soon to be Sangomas. Many of these individuals will try very hard to cure these illnesses or diseases that they might have through modern Western medicine, but it will not work. Oftentimes, this person will either live their life trying to cure themselves from this illness, but to no success. Sometimes the people will realize that Western medicine is not the solution for this particular illness that they have, and they'll go to a traditional healer. When they go and see a traditional healer, the traditional healer will then tell them that they have a calling to be a traditional healer themselves. At the end of the day, a normal, healthy person cannot become a Sangoma. A Sangoma will usually have a mental illness, a mental impairment, or a physical illness and impairment. Once they actually connect with their cause of being a Sangoma and they become a Sangoma, this illness or impairment will go away. However, as long as they live their life not tapping into their powers and not serving their purpose, they will be haunted by this illness or this impairment. According to the Zulu culture, these are the signs that a person has an ancestral calling to be a Sangoma, having absolutely no control over their life whatsoever. Events within their life can push their life into turmoil, and there's nothing they can actually do to fix it. They will suffer from consistent body aches. These are people that feel very isolated from society. They actually do not like to be in crowds or to deal with many people. They are usually hermits and loners. They will suffer from severe anxiety and panic attacks because their intuition is very strong and the ancestors are consistently sending them messages that they do not understand. They're often overwhelmed by all the information that they download and receive as well. They can have severe mood swings. They can even seem bipolar, where the one day they're extremely happy, cheerful, and positive, and the next day they're incredibly depressed and they do not want to deal with anything or anyone. They struggle to maintain functional relationships, and they often feel incredibly alienated from the rest of society. Often it is believed if a woman is unable to conceive and she consistently experiences miscarriages, she can be a Sangoma. It is believed that women who are unable to bear children and who also possibly possess many of these other symptoms can be Sangomas. Sangomas often feel stuck in life, or they become very impatient and they feel like they're not progressing because whatever it is that they do will not be satisfying to them or fulfilling to them unless they're actually living their calling and they're living their purpose of being a Sangoma. They're often haunted by very vivid dreams and nightmares, and they can often have prophetic dreams. If a person dreams of themselves performing rituals or potentially performing rituals for other people and helping and healing them, this is also a sign of them being a Sangoma. They will often hear sounds like voices and drums that other people cannot hear. Even though they're very lonely people, they often never feel like they're alone. They always feel like there is something or someone around them. They can also baffle themselves because often when they have conversations with people, they can give people answers that they didn't even realize they knew. They're usually incredibly emotional and sensitive people, and they usually really struggle to sleep. A sign that someone is a Sangoma is if they are constantly waking up around 3 a.m. and they struggle to fall asleep again around that time. People that are highly drawn to water and the ocean can also possibly be Sangomas. Now, after a person has experienced their calling and they have figured out that they have a calling to become a traditional healer, they will then be initiated. During this initiation, there are all kinds of traditions that get performed. They use all kinds of herbs to train this person to be a Sangoma. These rituals will also include rituals to cure the particular person of their ailments that are caused by their calling. The initiation is basically like a major preparation where they learn to communicate with the ancestors. They learn how to use rituals to heal other people. They learn how to work with energy. This initiation can take months or even years. During this initiation, the apprentice has to abstain from all sexual activity, and they also have to abstain from eating certain foods. They will also sit many days with their instructor and watch what their instructor does when they help and heal their clients. Once this stage of initiation is completed and the instructor feels that the Sangoma is well versed in working with energy, connecting with the ancestors, and using the rituals to help and heal people, there will then be a ceremony where a calf or a goat is slaughtered. This calf or goat will then be burned, and the person who's being initiated will then need to search the remaining ashes for any bones that have not been damaged. The bones that are then taken from these ashes will form part of the Sangoma's collection. These will then form part of his oracle bones, which he uses for divination. Sangoma also needs to learn about the ethnic history and mythology while they undergo their initiation, as they are keepers of sacred knowledge. So what are the skills of the Sangomas? So firstly, a Sangoma will read his Dingaka to figure out what the spiritual cause is of a particular problem a person is experiencing. Like I mentioned, the Dinaka is the Sangoma's oracle bones. Through these oracle bones, he's able to detect if there are any angry ancestors around this person or any evil entities or malevolent spirits. What they will often do, just to secure the validity of the outcome of the reading, they will repeat the reading in 3 different areas in nature, along with many different rituals, just to make sure that the answer they are receiving is the correct one. Traditionally, Sangomas are called the soul doctors because they're actually able to identify which part of a person's soul is damaged or hurt and is offending the ancestors and the spirits. Like I said, the Zulus believe that physical and mental illness originates in the spiritual realm. Sangomas also need to communicate with different entities from the spiritual world, who can either be friendly or they can be hostile. A Sangoma needs to be prepared for anything. They're usually highly skilled. They're able to make herbal concoctions that can help people. They can interpret dreams. They can bring spirits into your life and remove them. It is said they can also control the weather, and it is possible that they can even predict your future. When a Sangoma communicates with a spirit, whether the spirit be positive or negative, the Sangoma will ask the spirit what the spirit wants from their client. The spirit will then tell the Sangoma what needs to be done for the misfortune or illness to be removed from their clients, and the Sangoma will facilitate this ritual or facilitate whatever needs to be done to heal this person. Sangomas are highly respected in their communities. They're actually respected more than politicians and celebrities. Sangomas are actually seen as kings and queens within their community. It is said that the source of a Sangoma's power is called Umbelini. This is known to be a hot, coiled snake that ascends the spine. I don't know about you guys, but I can see a very solid connection with Kundalini and Umbelini. Sangomas in essence are people that have highly activated Kundalini energy. It is said that Sangomas can activate this Umbelini at will. They do this through beating a drum and through entering a meditative state. When they enter this meditative state, they are then able to access information about the past, the present, and the future through going to a special lake that exists within the spiritual world. Apparently, when these Sangomas visit this lake that exists in the spiritual world, they're able to access all the information they need. I found a thesis online that was written by Beauty Ntombi Zanele Boy. I love the information I'm about to go in now was written by her in her thesis. So Sangomas have different roles within their communities. These roles include divination, healing physical, emotional, or spiritual illness, directing birth or death rituals, finding lost cattle, protecting warriors, counteracting witchcraft, and narrating the history of their tradition. There are known to be two types of traditional healer. The first type is known as the diviner, which is known as the Sangoma, and the second one is known as the herbalist, which is known as the Inyanga. At the time that this thesis was written, there were about 25,000 registered medical practitioners within South Africa. These are medical practitioners who are trained in Western medicine. And then there are 200,000 traditional healers, meaning that in South Africa, there are actually way more traditional healers than there are doctors. Because in the Xhosa and the Zulu culture, they do not believe in consulting Western medicine in order to heal an ailment. Most of these people actually go to traditional healers to heal their ailment. Traditional healers are actually consulted by about 60% of the South African population. And traditional healers are actually much more sought after and needed within the South African population than Western doctors actually are. A Xhosa or a Zulu person will rather trust a traditional healer before they trust a Western doctor. It's also important to mention that most South Africans actually do not have access to Western medicine. Modern medicinal services can be out of their reach. It can be too far from their village or wherever it is they're staying in, or they can literally just not afford it. South Africa has a free public health system that often gets incredibly overwhelmed. When the hospitals are at capacity, these people have no choice but to go to traditional healers. When they do not have money to pay for the Western medicine and for the Western doctors, they go to their traditional healer. Part of the reason I love living in South Africa so much is because such a big percentage of our population has a more traditional healing mindset. It's very interesting to know that majority of people in the population of South Africa are aware of how physical and mental illnesses have a spiritual cause. Now in South Africa, the Sangomas give their patients and their clients a thing called muti. Now muti can be any kind of mixture of animal parts, herbs, and minerals. Now it is said that the Inyanga, who is the herbal healer, primarily relies on muti and herbs to actually heal their clients, whereas the actual Sangoma relies on divination. The Sangoma is in essence seen as some kind of fortune teller, so traditional healers usually work in a sacred healing hut. This is known as an indumba. The healers in the Sangomas believe that their ancestors reside within this hut or indumba. If they have to perform a ritual and they do not have access to a hut or an indumba, they will create a makeshift miniature space called an insamo. Part of the ritual where a Sangoma heals their client is where they enter a trance through drumming and chanting. It is said that this process allows for their ego to step aside and for the ancestors to take hold of their body. When the ancestor possesses the Sangoma's body, they are then able to communicate with the patient or the client. In this particular state, the Sangoma will then communicate specific problems and solutions to the client, which is actually said to be the ancestors communicating to the client. This is very similar to shamans and how shamans also enter a trance-like state in order to help heal their clients. It is said that the ancestral spirits that enter the Sangoma's body, when they are in this trance-like state, can either be their own ancestral spirits, it can be their clients' ancestral spirits, or it can be ancestral spirits that are linked to the particular location they're in. So when a patient goes to a Sangoma for healing, they usually do not tell the Sangoma what their problem is or what their ailment is. When they meet the Sangoma, they'll usually only introduce themselves by their name, and then the Sangoma will throw their bones. It is said that the ancestors control how these bones will come out when they are thrown. And based on the outcome of these bones, the Sangoma is then able to figure out what the particular ailment or illness of their patient is. Once the patient agrees that this is the issue they are having, the Sangoma can then proceed to help heal the patient. So how are mutis used to heal people and to help them? The muti is prepared based on the particular ailment the person is experiencing. Each different muti concoction will be unique for every different person. The muti is then used through bathing with it, drinking it, and then purging or vomiting. Steaming, which means they heat up the muti and they inhale the vapors. Nasally as a snuff, so they crush the muti into a powder form and they snuff it. Through cuttings, what they do is they'll make an incision in the patient's body and then they'll insert the muti into the incision. In the Zulu culture, there's a superstition that there are spirits that reside in large bodies of water. They believe that if they swim in rivers, oceans, or lakes, they can be pulled down into the water by these spirits. For this reason, many people from the Zulu culture do not actually swim in large bodies of water. They actually fear it. Part of the initiation process of becoming a Sangoma is where you actually go underwater. There's a belief that if you get sucked in by these water spirits, they will keep you there for months or even years. It is said that Sangomas often spend lots of time in these water bodies, gaining information from these spirits and learning through them. I will link an article in the description to this video about a family who is desperately trying to save a woman from the underwater spirits. This is actually a story of a woman who has been missing for 70 years now. However, her family still believes that she is stuck underwater and she is being trained by the spirits to be a Sangoma. They believe that one day she will come out of the water. It's quite an interesting story, so go check it out. So really interesting fact, Sangomas are legally recognized in South Africa as a profession. They're seen as traditional health practitioners under the Traditional Health Practitioners Act. This includes diviners, herbalists, traditional birth attendants, and traditional surgeons, which basically means in South Africa, working in the field of divination is actually seen as a legitimate occupation. Now, Sangomas usually originate from the Xhosa and the Zulu people. However, can Sangomas exist in different cultures? It is said that it's actually still an ongoing discussion whether people who are not born into the Xhosa and the Zulu cultures can actually be Sangomas. Some people say that a Sangoma has to be called by their ancestors to be a healer, and the ancestors have to come from either the paternal or the maternal side, meaning that the mother or the father will be Xhosa and Zulu, and they also have a connection with many lineages of ancestors. There's also another argument that says that anyone can actually become a Sangoma. This argument goes that the spirits that call you to become a Sangoma are not from your lineage. This means that the spirits that call you to be a Sangoma are not from your family and your ancestors, but it's actually a foreign or an alien spirit called Abanzawo. This argument goes that foreign spirits can attach to certain people based on particular experiences they had or that their family might have had. So at the end of the day, whether a person who is not Zulu or Xhosa can be a Sangoma is still highly debated. Now, it's interesting, in this thesis, I basically read how the Western psychiatric view of shamanism is that these people are primarily experiencing psychosis, hallucinations. What you believe at the end of the day is up to you to decide. In Western medicine, when a person undergoes ukutwasa, which is the stage where they undergo the calling of being a Sangoma, where they will experience some kind of physical or psychiatric illness, according to Western medicine, this is just merely a physical or psychological illness. What you believe is up to you to decide. So here are some really interesting facts about Sangomas. In South Africa, when you yawn, it means that a spirit wants to talk to you and communicate with you. Zulu people have many different types of traditions that they follow to protect themselves. One of these traditions is to throw a cup full of a newly opened bottle of rum into the northeast corner of a room in order to appease the ancestors and give them their share. If you do not do this, they'll get very angry because they did not get any rum. Withholding rum from your ancestors is one of the worst things you can do. There is a mythological creature in South Africa called the Tokoloshi. This is a dwarf-like sprite that is said to cause chaos and disruption in a person's life while they sleep. The belief goes that the Tokoloshi is some kind of spirit that can be summoned by a Sangoma. The Tokoloshi cannot be seen by the physical eye, but apparently the Tokoloshi is small like a dwarf. What's interesting is that in essence all South Africans fear the Tokoloshi. Regardless of being Xhosa or Zulu, most children in South Africa get told the story of the Tokoloshi. Growing up, they fear the Tokoloshi. Often, when children in South Africa are naughty, their parents will say to them, "You must stop being naughty or the Tokoloshi is going to come get you tonight." Growing up, I was terrified of the Tokoloshi. I was told that the Tokoloshi was going to come haunt me in the middle of the night. There's a belief in South Africa that you actually have to keep bricks under your bed to raise the level of your bed so that the Tokoloshi cannot reach you while you're sleeping. If the bed is too high up, he can't actually reach you because he's a short little guy. It is said that when you wrong a Sangoma and you end up on the bad side of a Sangoma, the Sangoma will summon a Tokoloshi in your house. You will then experience misfortune, loss, heartache, illness, and all kinds of bad things will happen to you and your family because the Tokoloshi will be causing all these bad things to you. The Tokoloshi is such a well-known thing in South Africa that it's actually become part of pop culture. There's a song by Jack Parow called Hosh Tokolosh. This song is sang in Afrikaans, and to be honest, this song is quite bizarre. I will add a link to this song in the description to this video if you want to go check it out. It's very interesting. The imagery in this music video is incredibly accurate. It shows Jack sitting on a bed with bricks underneath it. They use bones and skulls in the imagery, which is connected to the Sangomas. Here's some images from the music video, and as you guys can see, it's quite crazy. So this is basically a fun pop song that was created around the concept of the Tokoloshi. There is a YouTuber called Honey Makwakwa who makes videos about the Sangoma culture and traditions. I will link her channel in the description of this video if you want to go have a look at her channel. She's got some really interesting and informative videos about the Sangoma culture and tradition, and you guys will be able to learn a lot more from her than what I've actually mentioned in this video. Her channel is called the Sangoma Society. If you enjoyed this video and you'd be interested in seeing a video where I visit a Sangoma locally, leave a thumbs up on this video. If this video gets 100 likes, I will find a local Sangoma and I will pay them a visit and I will document my experience for you guys. Please let me know in the comments what you thought of this video. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see some more videos about spirituality and astrology. And check out the link to my Patreon below if you'd like to support this channel. On my Patreon, I offer direct communication, monthly readings, horoscopes, access to exclusive content, merchandise, and much, much more. If you're interested in a reading, I've also linked my website to the description of this video where you will be able to browse all the different readings and services that I offer. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.